welcome again to Jason's in the House. I'm your host, Jason Parisella, real estate agent over at Keller Williams in Beverly, right over at the Cummings Center. And nice to be with you again. And we have a returning guest in this show. It was Jerry Parisella, my cousin. He was with us, was probably at least about a year ago. But Jerry is an attorney with Alexander and Femino in Beverly. And welcome back, Jerry. It's nice to have you with us again.
Thanks. Nice to be here. Appreciate it.
Great. And I know you used to actually, I'm thinking you used to have your own show at one point, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
City Watch. Yeah. Back in the 90s.
Yeah.
We used to do live shows, call in. It was a lot of fun. Did a lot of political shows.
Yeah.
Interviewed Ted Kennedy. That was probably the highlight.
Did you
of
really?
my City Watch career.
What year was he on?
That was probably, I think, in 93 or 94. We went to his office in Boston.
So you did it on site?
Did it on site, and it was amazing.
Wow.
All the memorabilia in his office. You know, he had like an autographed baseball glove from Collier Yastrzemski and a lot of memorabilia from his brother, the President Kennedy. It was really neat to talk to him.
So you went right inside his office?
Right into his office in Boston, yeah.
Now, how did that get arranged?
Well, I worked for Nick Mavroulis, Congressman Nick Mavroulis, for a couple of years down in Washington. So Nick and Senator Kennedy were friendly. So after I came back to Beverly, just working some connections through knowing the senator's staff and stuff, and he agreed to do an interview. So it was a blast. Yeah.
That must have been good. So how long did you? What was it, like a half-an-hour show?
Yeah, we did a half-hour show on site, talking about issues affecting Massachusetts and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have a tape of that?
I do.
That'd be interesting. So what's happening? Why don't you just start out? Let's talk a little bit about your law firm. Talk to us about Alexander Femino. And
sure, we're a general practice firm in Beverly. The three lawyers, Tom Alexander, Len Femino, and myself. We handle a lot of real estate, zoning, development issues, civil litigation. I handle some criminal matters as well. So we try to serve the community in a general practice. Variety of issues that people might have in their everyday lives, if they need a will or trust drawn up, things like that. We handle that as well. And I'm also the assistant city solicitor for the city of Salem, so I represent the city of Salem in various matters as well.
So what does the assistant solicitor do?
There are two lawyers that represent the city of Salem. There's the city solicitor, and I'm the assistant. So any kind, like a lot of times there might be litigation, like somebody is suing the city because they were denied a special permit or a variance, or the neighbors are suing because somebody was granted a variance or a special permit, or maybe somebody fell off in a sidewalk and got injured, things like that. So we represent the city in court, and if there's conflict review, city councilors might have legal questions, the mayor might have legal questions, so we'll advise the mayor, city councilors, building inspector, various officials about legal matters.
Yeah, no, that must actually get quite involved, pretty busy. I mean, this must be always something going on with that.
There always is, and it's amazing, the variety of questions that you get. So it's really an interesting job.
Yeah.
Getting to court a fair amount too, so it's been fun.
Yeah. How long have you been?
For about 3.5 years now.
3.5 years.
Yes.
What do you find is the most common thing that people? Is it more people slipping and falling type stuff, or is it more like issues with neighbors because they put up a fence or a zoning issue?
Yeah, a lot of issues are related to neighbors not liking what's going on in the neighborhood, either because a project's been approved, or if somebody had a project that wasn't approved, then they may sue. I've been working on a case where they're trying to redevelop the old St. Joseph's Church project in Salem. It's a 2.5 acre site, and they want to put like 70 affordable homes, affordable housing units there, and that's been in litigation for like 3 years. So, there's a lot of issues like that come up.
So the developer's trying to put the affordable housing in.
Right.
And what's the
and
hold
the neighbors are suing, saying that it's not appropriate. So.
Now, is that Lafayette Street?
Yes, that's on Lafayette Street. Yes. Huh. Yeah, there's been like 4 different cases that have gone on, so I've been involved in that.
Now, is the zoning, just because this relates to housing and people's values, I mean, is the zoning, what were they actually, is it legal use?
They did get like some zoning relief.
And the neighbors.
Right, the neighbors. It was a residential zone, so the zoning board and then the city council granted them certain relief so that they could put more units there, because it wouldn't have been economically feasible. They've only been allowed to do about 12 or 15 units or so.
Right.
So by changing the zoning, they allow them to put more units there. So it was going to be a mixed use of commercial space and affordable housing. It's owned by an arm of the Archdiocese of Boston, so it's a nonprofit organization, and so they're getting grants and things like that. So they needed that zoning relief so that the project could be affordable.
I see. So they still own it.
They still own it.
So
right.
I mean, as a homeowner, what can you do in that situation where, you know, they're going to do something where the zoning needs to be changed or a major change? What is your rights as a homeowner?
Well, first of all, every time there's going to be any kind of like a zoning change or a variance or anything like that, by law, all the abutters have to be notified. So any abutters and anybody that lives within 300 feet are notified directly by mail. There's also notices put in the newspaper. So there's always a public hearing, and neighbors can have public input, and you can talk about that. And if they disagree with, you know, the zoning relief that's being requested, they can tell the zoning board that. And if it's going to be like a variance or something like that, there has to be, most zoning boards are 5 members, and there has to be a 4-to-1 vote for it to be approved. So it takes a super majority for that to happen. So if there's a lot of opposition in the neighborhood, it may not happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we're representing somebody who's going to do some zoning work, we always tell them, talk to the neighbors and see if you can work something out prior to the meeting so you can accommodate any concerns they have.
Right.
You know, try to do that prior to the meeting.
So the key as a homeowner is to show up, voice your opinion or your opposition, so you can show people that you are concerned, that you want, you know, that you're opposed to it.
Yeah, or sometimes you want to show up if it's good for the neighborhood, you know,
Right.
and sometimes you want to let them know this will be good for the neighborhood. You know, there are certain developments that are going to increase property values. You know, there could be a
Right.
blighted area like that St. Joseph project I'm talking about right now. It's actually, I'm kind of surprised that the neighbors are upset because it's a vacant lot right now. The homeless people are congregating there. It's a fire hazard. The fire chief is concerned about fire. The police are always responding there. So I think it's actually having a negative impact on the neighborhood. So, you know, so you got to kind of weigh, you know, how is this going to affect my neighborhood, you
Right.
know? So there could be a positive impact as well.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, depending on how you feel about the project, how the community shows up and responds at these meetings plays a huge role in how
Yeah.
it's decided.
Well, I know, I mean, I've seen Tom's name quite a bit, Tom Alexander's name, with representing a lot of the, you know, subdivision type projects and zoning changes and things like that. So I know he stays busy with that.
Yeah, he's really probably considered the go-to guy
Yeah.
in Beverly. You know, he's been involved in a lot of projects. You know, going back to the Stop and Shop project across from the Cumming Center, he represented the Cumming Center.
Yep.
And recently, one of the big projects he worked on was the music theater.
Oh yeah,
which
that's
is,
very true. Yeah.
Yeah, which it just received permission recently to reopen. So that could be a nice boost for the economy in Beverly.
So who ended up buying that?
It's a gentleman out of Rhode Island who operates a couple of other theaters, and so he got foreclosed on. The North Shore Music Theater couldn't pay its debt, so the bank foreclosed on it. So he's working out a deal with the lender to buy it.
I see. So he's going to keep it as a music
He's
theater.
going to keep it as a music
Oh, that's
theater.
good,
He
'cause-
wants to operate it like it was. There might not be as many shows because his philosophy was that the North Shore Music Theater was overstaffed, and that's why they had budget problems. So
Oh, I
he might
see.
not run as many shows, but at least there will be shows in Beverly.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of people, that was kind of a surprise when that all changed. Yeah.
yeah, it was. So he seems like he's been successful in operating other local theaters. So people are excited that this could come back to Beverly.
Now, offhand, do you know what is the zoning there? Is it industrial or is it?
Well, no, I'm not sure what the zoning is there, but he did get a special permit so that he could operate that.
So the music theater was always grandfathered?
Well, yeah,
was it-
because of the use of it as a
was like
nonprofit at the time.
Oh, I see, yeah.
But there's actually, the mayor would like to have an access road go from Brimble Ave to that site. So I believe, I'm not sure if it's industrial or not, the zoning, but there is some, if we could get that access road, the mayor said that there could be a lot of development in there that would also bring some more tax revenue.
Yeah, I
into
know
the
that's
city.
been thrown around for a while, that access
Right.
road.
Right. Apparently, the state has done some studies on that, but just because of the financial difficulties right now.
Yeah, the money is
hasn't
always
come
an
in.
issue,
Yeah.
yeah. Touch upon the foreclosure. Is there an update? And I'm hearing something about a 90-day period or something on the foreclosures, or what's happening with all
Yeah,
that?
there was a recent law passed that if a lender is going to foreclose on somebody's home, a residential, not a commercial, but on residential, then there is a 90-day waiting period. So basically they have to give the homeowner a notice that they're looking to foreclose, and there's a 90-day period before they can start their foreclosure proceedings.
Mm-hmm.
And then the lender also has to notify the state division of banks about that. So it gives the homeowner a chance to try to work something out with the lender. And nowadays, you know, the lenders do want to try to work something out if they can, because they don't want to be homeowners. It's not good for their portfolios. It's not good to be landlords. It's not good to be homeowners.
Right.
So we're seeing, you know, more and more workouts. And it really depends on the person's financial situation. But if the folks can, but you know, back, but maybe 5-6 years ago, there were a lot of adjustable rate loans, and so when the rates were changing, it was really putting a burden on folks. So some lenders now are saying, okay, we'll go back to that lower rate and maybe drop the rate to 3% or something like that. So it gives the person a chance to make their monthly payments.
Right.
It's much better for the lender to have somebody making payments than to foreclose on them. So they will do some workouts, and people have a right to talk to counselors. There's a good website, HUD has a website, Housing and Urban Development, and there's counselors where people can talk to them and try to work something out with the banks.
So is it, what's the 90-day period again? Is it from the day you
Essentially what happens is
start making your payment?
Yeah, the bank's eventually going to notify you, hey, you know, you need to start making your payments, and then they say they're going to foreclose on you. So they'll send you this 90-day notice saying that we're going to foreclose.
After the 90-day period.
Then after the 90-day period, then they start the regular foreclosing proceedings like it was before.
But it's after the 90 days.
Right, but now they have to wait that 90 days.
I mean, normally if you say you're late, you know, you don't make your December payment, now you're late 1 month in January. When do you think
they'll start giving you calls, and then, you know, after the calls come, then comes the formal notice, and then.
So what, like a few months after?
Yeah, a few months after.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they'll start calling right away, but you know, eventually they're going to give you that formal notice.
Right.
One thing about foreclosures is there's been a big issue that some lenders are screwing up the foreclosures.
Well, I heard about all that. They did them all wrong or something?
Yeah, because what happens is, like, so many banks, like you might go to some mortgage company and they sell your loan, and then they sell your loan, and it's like no one really knows who the heck owns this loan because they've been sold, and you heard about all these securitized mortgages that were talked about a while ago with all the banks crashing and all that. So sometimes the wrong company was foreclosing, and so the courts have said, you know, you guys have messed this up.
You got to start all over.
You got to know who. Right, you got to start all over because the wrong company might be foreclosing on the people.
So it gets so confusing.
It does, yeah. So
Wow.
there's been some issues in court with that.
Yeah. Do you guys do a lot of foreclosures, or?
No, I mean, we do a lot of, like, we represent buyers and sellers,
Right.
and we try to help them, you know, buy a property or sell a property. You know, there are a couple of firms in Massachusetts that pretty much do all the foreclosure stuff,
yeah.
like Harmon and firms like that. But we represent buyers and sellers.
Yeah, good. All right, so have you seen any increase or decrease in the purchase business or the refis, you know, the amount of closings coming in your office, or the people refinancing? I know the rate's been good. So.
Yeah, the rates have been good, so there's definitely been an increase. It's not like the boom times of a few years ago, but it has definitely increased. We're definitely seeing more activity in the office because, like you said, the rates are good.
Right.
And especially for first-time home buyers with the tax credits that are being offered, and they've been extended to other folks as well. So it's not just the first-time home buyer anymore. It's also, if you haven't purchased a house in the last 5 years, you also can get a tax credit.
Yeah.
So you know, that's helping to spur some activity as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot. I mean, that's been really helpful. I think it's been one of the major reasons. I mean, that with the low rate, why people are out there. I think it's really helped the real estate industry.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a nice change, is having it not just be the first-time home buyer. It's great for the first-time home buyer that they got that credit, but now with the it's a $6,500 tax credit that goes to folks who haven't purchased in the last 5 years. So if they were thinking maybe I should buy, you know, it's probably a great time to do it.
Gives them a good reason to, yeah. So I want to bring up, and you touched a little bit upon, you used to work for Nick Marvulis, and I've been seeing some articles in the paper and just wanted to bring up and talk a little bit about what's happening with you and the articles that I'm reading about state rep.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about running for state rep. I filed paperwork with the state to form a committee. So I would say, I'm leaning much heavier towards running than not running. Yeah, I'm definitely, thinking long and hard about it. I got the official approval from the family.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, my wife is all for it. So, yeah, I'm definitely looking into running for state rep.
Excellent. So being an attorney and some of your background with Nick Marvulis, and how do you think being an attorney in your current field is going to help you with, what do you bring to the table as far as that goes with a state rep?
Yeah, I mean, a state rep by definition is a lawmaker. So, I mean, as a state rep, you're looking at laws, you're approving laws, you're voting on laws. So, to me, having that legal background, it makes sense because you're gonna have to make a decision on a law that's going to affect people. And
right.
And as being a lawyer every day, I'm looking at laws. I'm advising people on legal matters, and I've seen some laws that have been kind of poorly written. And so, I think with that legal background, I'm going to be able to analyze and make a good decision when it comes time to voting on new laws in Massachusetts.
So, I mean, touch upon that a little bit on the law. If all of a sudden, people, whatever, the state reps get together and they decide on this new law, well, who actually writes this law?
Well,
I mean, like, how does that work?
Yeah, basically, like what happens is somebody will submit a bill, and a bill
but
is
who, like one of the state reps?
One of the state reps,
or
maybe the governor will say, I'm looking at this law and I'd like to have it. And so he'll submit it to the state legislature or state rep.
Yeah.
Or maybe, active citizens who we had a recent ballot petition about, decriminalizing marijuana.
Right.
So it could be citizens that do that. So if somebody could have brought that to a state rep and they could have taken a vote on that. So yeah, it's typically those methods are what brings a bill, and then it's voted on by the state legislature, the House, the Senate.
But sometimes they might change the language and stuff like that. And
yeah, it's kind of, everyone kind of jokes, it's like making sausages. It's kind of ugly as you're watching it going through the process. You can change a lot of different ways because, in Massachusetts we have a House, which is what the state reps are. There's a Senate, and then there's the governor. So, someone could propose a bill in the House, and then the Senate could say, I don't like it, you need to change this.
Right.
Kind of like in the federal level with all this healthcare debate going on.
Yeah.
In Massachusetts, there's 160 state reps, there's 40 senators, so you got 200 people who might have 200 different ideas on how something should go, and then you have the governor. So
now, is that what is that? How does that run? Is that a majority? When the final vote comes down,
yeah, typically it's a majority vote.
51%?
Right.
So it's that, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you could have a bill proposed in the House, and they could support it, and then maybe it goes over to the Senate, and the Senate could say, we don't like it, and it never goes anywhere. And so
obviously you're looking to represent the majority interest of Beverly, voting for these issues, the best, what you think is the best for Beverly.
Right. The state rep would be the representative for the city of Beverly and Boston, going up on Beacon Hill and making sure that the interests of Beverly are looked after, up there. There's also State Senator Fred Berry, who represents Beverly as well, so he'd be representing Beverly in the Senate side, and then whoever's the state rep would be representing.
So that's the House side.
Right. The state rep is the House side. Right.
I see. I mean, Fred Berry's been, how long has he been?
Over 20 years.
So there's no time limit on?
Well, you have to run it it's just every 2 years for the state rep and the Senate, but
you can just keep going.
Yeah, there's no term limits. So I mean, he's very popular, and he keeps getting reelected. A lot of times people don't even run against him.
But is he Fred Berry? Is he what town does he represent, or is he more of a state?
He represents Beverly, Danvers, Salem, and
Peabody.
Peabody.
It is? Okay, it is.
Yeah.
I knew it was Beverly. I didn't know if it was so.
He lives in Peabody.
But is there a difference between the Senate and the House?
Yeah, because the senators represent more people, right?
I see.
Like it's basically by population.
Yeah.
So with Beverly, it's roughly like 40,000 people live in Beverly. So Beverly has their own state rep. Salem has their own state rep. Peabody has their own state rep. But if you live in like Boxford, Hamilton, Wenham, there might be like 10 towns with one state rep. And then with the Senate, they represent more people because there's only 40 senators, so those 40 senators have to cover the entire state.
I get it, okay. Yeah, sometimes there's so many different layers, you kind of get confused. So that's good. So we should be looking forward to some more news regarding all this about your...
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, looking hard at it and, seeing what people think about it, but I've gotten a great reaction so far.
Good,
yeah.
Good. Now, we talked a little bit about what would you specifically be doing? Like the job description of a state rep for Beverly, what would?
Yeah, I mean, definitely you got to look to see what's going on at the state with the budget, issues like that. I think some of the big issues in Beverly right now are, we've got the new high school being built.
Yeah.
The state is going to reimburse the city of Beverly roughly 56%. So you get an $80 million high school, so that's a huge impact on the budget. So you want to make sure that those reimbursements are coming back from the state.
So when they approved this, they approved it with 56% of the.
Yeah, it depends. It'll probably end up being about 56% because the city of Beverly is also like incorporating into the building design some environmental weatherization improvements that will result in a better reimbursement. It's
I
kind
see.
of like it's considered a green building.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So they get a little bit more money for that.
Huh.
Yeah. And the city recently approved a new Mega Voc, which is the new vocational school. And that's going to be a $133 million building that's going to serve a bunch of communities on the North Shore. And Beverly's going to be a part of that. And I think Beverly's share is going to be about $5.5 million.
Wow.
But the state's going to reimburse all these communities roughly about $98 million.
Huh.
So that's a huge reimbursement for the communities. But still, the community is going to have to come up with roughly about $31 million. And I think
Now is that going to be in Middleton?
Yeah, well, it's going to be in the old Essex Aggie site.
Oh, the Essex Aggie site, that's what it is, okay.
Yeah.
The one, where it is now is behind, like where Market Basket is, in Middleton?
Well, it's going to go in the old, yes,
That's where it is
but
now,
it's
so
going to
that's
be
gonna-
combined with the Essex Aggie.
But is that building going to be, that's not really near, is it near the Essex Aggie? No.
Not really, but
Yeah,
they're
it's
going to
a different-
combine it all because Peabody has its own Voc too, so.
So that one that's in Middleton now, the so-called Voc School, is that building, it's just going to be?
They're going to make a Mega Voc. It's going to be a brand new building.
So that building won't even
yeah,
be, okay,
I
I
don't believe
get it,
that's
yeah.
the building's going to be used for the Voc
So
anymore.
most of the towns around the surrounding areas have already opted in, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. They had to vote by a certain date, and enough voted on to have it be approved. Because if there weren't enough communities getting involved, then the state wouldn't have reimbursed that money.
Yeah.
So Beverly was actually the last community to put it over the top to bring enough students in.
Now, is Essex Aggie, what's happening with Essex Aggie?
That's going to be part of this school.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So they'll be offered. So if the Voc might offer, let's say, auto mechanics or electronic, or being an electrician or plumber or something
Right.
like that. Like my sister went there, for cosmetology.
Right.
At Essex Aggie, they got some of the more traditional courses they teach, like animal sciences and things like that. So it'll all be offered in this big Mega Voc.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, interesting. So we have the Mega Voc, the regional vocational school. What about the parking garage?
Yeah, the parking garage is huge, because
I just heard that something about they rushed it, so they're not going to get the housing. And
Yeah, basically what's going on there is the state has to construct about 1,000 parking spaces by the end of 2011.
Now, what's that have to do with?
Well, it's got to do with like the big dig and environmental impact. So they're trying to encourage people to take commuter rail. So by having this parking at the commuter rail in Beverly and Salem, that gave them roughly that 1,000 parking spaces that they needed.
See.
So because the state got a lot of money for the big dig, but they're not saying, well, we don't want everyone just getting in the car and driving. We want to encourage people using commuter rail or other facets, commuter rail, things like that, or the MBTA.
Right.
So they're hoping this would encourage that.
Huh.
But it's great. It's great for the city. Unfortunately, they did want to. The mayor and other city officials were hoping that it would be a garage and housing.
And housing,
but right
right.
now, it looks like it might be just a garage, and then maybe potentially put some housing in the future there.
So that's the state. Is that how much of the state was paying for that?
Pretty much all of it.
Are they really? It's more of a state?
Yeah, it's the MBTA, like $11 million. The city might have to kick in some. Originally, the city was going to have to kick in $500,000. It has to be determined how much the city's going to have to kick in
Now,
with this project.
Is it going with the press box? Is that where it's going?
Like behind there where there's a parking garage, like Court Street area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Up in that area.
Yeah.
Okay. Few minutes left, maybe 2 minutes. I want to
Okay.
talk a little bit about veterans issues, because I know, give us a quick, are you in the reserves?
Yes, yeah, I've been in for about 16 years. I'm in the Army Reserves.
Okay.
Gone overseas before, like Bosnia and a few other deployments. So to me, I don't know, veterans issues is,
So that's
it's a big deal
that's
to me. I'm really, I'm interested in making sure that the veterans are taken care of. In the United States, there are like 250,000 veterans who are homeless. To me,
Wow.
that's unacceptable. And so, those kind of issues, and especially in Massachusetts, we don't really have like a big military presence, but we have a lot of reservists and guardsmen who have been activated to Iraq and Afghanistan and other places. Just want to make sure they're taken care of when they get back.
Yeah. Well,
know.
obviously in a time of, we're in, we've got Afghanistan going on and Iraq, and so there's a lot going on.
Right. So just want to make sure that those folks get the care that they deserve, if they have any issues. But, you deal with housing, they can get VA loans, which basically can be like a no down payment loan.
Right.
If they go to Iraq and Afghanistan, they can get a bonus from the state of $1,000. So there's a lot of issues that veterans,
So what about if they buy a house and they get deployed, what happens? If they can't pay the mortgage, isn't there a grace
Yeah,
period or something?
there's a federal law that protects them, the Service Member Civil Relief Act, so that a bank can't foreclose on them unless they get court approval. And the courts aren't going to allow a bank to foreclose if somebody's serving overseas,
Yeah.
So, yeah, they do get a grace period. So if they're facing financial difficulties because of their deployment, then they won't get foreclosed on while they're serving.
Yeah. Okay. Any other things you want to touch on with? I know there's a lot of budget things that you have to deal with and stuff like that. Anything real quick about the state rep part that you want to touch?
Yeah,
upon?
I mean, it's just hopefully the budget situation will improve in Massachusetts. The city gets state aid, and it has since from 2001 to now, it's actually gone down.
Wow.
So while the city expenses keep going up, the state aid has gone down. So that's obviously having a negative impact on the city.
Good. Well, we look forward to hearing more about you and the official. If you make an official decision to run, then that will be great. So in the meantime, anybody wants to talk to you or any other questions about politics or legal, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can give me a call at 978-921-1990. That's my office number, or 978-922-3904. That's my home number.
All right, great. Well, thanks, Jerry. Nice to have you on again.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, before we close, again, I always want to thank BevCam for all their help and generosity to do the show with us. And if you have any questions for me personally, feel free to call me at 978-927-6030, or you can always visit my website, which is jasonparisellateam.com. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.